Okay, thank you. We're getting. All right. Can you hear me okay? All right. We welcome you to the Senate Committee on Education, and welcome all those that are here online and present by phone. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Vice Chair Dundara Loop.
Here.
Senator Hardy.
Here.
Senator Hammond.
Here.
Senator Lang.
Here.
Senator Buck.
Here.
Senator Danyate.
Here.
Chair Dennis.
Here. Thank you very much. We do have a quorum, so we will move forward. For those on video, just keep yourselves muted when not speaking. Also, the committee information is available on Nellis, so you can access it through the legislature's website. You can also watch through Nellis or through the legislature's YouTube channel. If you're testifying or providing public comment, please register to participate through Nellis. Also, when testifying, please state and spell your name and affiliation, if any. And we'll take public comment at the very end. And that will be limited to 2 minutes per person. And you can also submit your comments either in writing or, and then you can briefly summarize them when you speak, or you could just submit them. Also, you could submit written comments as outlined on the agenda by emailing or faxing them to the committee manager. So with that, we have today we have 2 bills before us today, and we are going to start with Senate Bill 102. So I will go ahead and open the hearing on Senate Bill 102. And this measure revises the date by which children must be at least a certain age to be admitted into certain grades of school. And I believe we have Senator Hammond to start this off.
Well, thank you, Chair Dennis. For the record, I am Scott Hammond, representing Senate District 18 in Clark County. I'm pleased to present Senate Bill 102 for your consideration today. With me today, I have Ms. Katie Lackey, principal of the Sky Canyon campus on Somerset Academy of Las Vegas, who will provide additional context for the bill. It was Ms. Lackey who brought this to my attention, as well as others. A little bit of background: the issue of when a child should or should not begin school is not just about making sure a child is old enough to sit still long enough to listen to the teacher and absorb the classroom lesson. These decisions can have a broad impact on a child's future. There are also broad concerns, including social and behavioral development and how that translates to academic progress. The importance of attention to a child's overall social behavioral development has come into sharp focus in recent years, from increases in school violence to the impacts such as depression resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. A national longitudinal study made available by the University of Southern California's Center for Economic and Social Research indicates that entering kindergarten at an older age has significant positive effects on children's social behavioral skills through the elementary school years. Others believe that certain children can begin school early. Although others believe that certain children can begin school early, I think we all hope for this ideal scenario where all kids have access to school as early as possible. However, this discussion is not so simple. From a public policy perspective, many kids are just not ready to begin school. In the National Longitudinal Study from USC, the researchers point out that differences in reading and math test scores between older and younger kindergarten pupils, quote, start out large at school entry and diminish over time. Although the difference in reading achievement still remains statistically significant and sizable at the end of the 8th grade year, unquote. A child's learning, particularly in the early grades, is fundamental to their success in the remaining school years and ultimately life beyond school. One of the most critical lessons is learning to read. If a child is not socially and behaviorally ready to learn when they enter school, how can they successfully build a strong foundation of early reading skills. In the last several years, this legislature has focused a lot of attention and money on intervention services, such as those for struggling readers. Why not do some proactive rather than reactive in this regard? Anecdotally, for many years, I have heard the frustrations of parents, teachers, and administrators who find it challenging to maintain the focus and engagement of some pupils who are simply not ready for the classroom and who can sometimes negatively affect the learning of other pupils in the class. Often these kids are the youngest in their class who barely made the cutoff date necessary to enroll. Some of these children end up being held back a year because of this delay, thereby losing friends they just made, and in some cases, feeling embarrassed or inadequate in some way. This is truly a disservice to these kids and their families. I would like to offer some statistics on where other states are on this issue. According to research by the Education Commission of the States, 36 other states in the nation have cutoff dates before Nevada's required date of September 30th. Senate Bill 102 would put Nevada in a similar lane as these other states and would address many other issues mentioned earlier. Now, I'd like to walk you through a little bit about what the bill does in section by section. So to walk through, to walk you through what SB 102 proposes, I would like to first provide some relevant details for Nevada specifically. Existing law generally requires each school district to offer a full-day kindergarten program in each elementary school. However, parents are not required to enroll their children or their child in a public school until the child is 7 years of age. Currently in Nevada, children between the ages of 7 and 18 must attend school. Additionally, NRS 392.040 provides that a child who is 5 years of age on or before September 30th of a school year may be admitted to kindergarten at the beginning of that school year. With certain exceptions, if a child turns 6 years of age on or before September 30th of a school year, generally the child must be admitted to either first grade or kindergarten at the beginning of that school year if the child has not already completed kindergarten. Senate Bill 102 changes from September 30th to August 1st, the cutoff date by which a child must be a certain age in order to enroll in certain grades. I have also proposed an amendment. I have one amendment I would like to put forward. I spoke with various stakeholders affected by this bill. Schools were very supportive of this bill. They did, however, indicate that it will take some time to implement the bill. This timing element is why I would like to offer an amendment to modify the effective date in Section 2 of the bill to be effective upon passage and approval for purposes of adopting regulations and performing other administrative tasks, and on July 1st, 2022 for all other purposes. Now, if the chair would mind, I would like to turn the time over to Ms. Lackey, who I believe is on the Zoom call with us.
Yes, please proceed.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kate Lackey. I'd like to share my screen at this time. Hope you all can see. Excuse me. There you go. My name is Kate Lackey. I am the principal at Somerset Academy Sky Canyon in Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you for your time today. I've been an educator for 26 years and in administration for about 9 years, and I am very passionate about this bill that we're bringing before you today. About a year and a half ago, Senator Hammond came to the school and toured the school to see it. And at that time, I bent his ear about this bill and how passionate I am about it. Gave him a little bit of data that I've gathered over the years, and we moved forward from there. Most of my educational career has been in elementary education. I was a kindergarten teacher for a very long time, and have always, like I said, felt passionate about this. Therefore, we hope to make a change today. So,
excuse me, Principal. I so apologize for interrupting.
Yeah.
We are not able to see your presentation on the network. But I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment. If you could go ahead and reshare, that's all it takes. I think it's because you went out and came back in.
Can you see that?
If you could make that full screen as well.
It is
Is
on
there
my
any
end.
way, actually, can I have you stop the
Sure.
screen share one more time? And instead of sharing it from an internet page, if you could open it out of PowerPoint directly, that will be very helpful and we'll be able to see it better.
Okay. It is a Google slide. I apologize.
When you showed it during check-in, it was
Yeah,
perfect. Maybe
it's
you
the
just
same
needed to be
thing.
in full screen.
That's okay. Let me go view, present. And I apologize, everyone. I did share it earlier. It worked. How's that?
That looks much better. Please stand by just to make sure that our camera operator can see that. And he says it looks good. Please proceed. And again, I apologize for the
No,
interruption.
I'm sorry. I thought it was working the first time. Thank you. So as I was saying, the bill obviously revises the date by which children must be at least a certain age to be admitted to certain grades of school. The proposal is to please change the date by which a child must enter kindergarten specifically from September 30th to August 1st. In 2010, Nevada Code Title 34, Chapter 392 of NRS 392.040 determined the age in which a child must enter school. However, in the year 2017, the Nevada schools started the school year at least 2 weeks earlier than in previous years. However, the age date did not adjust accordingly. So therefore, under this current bill, the kindergarten student can enter kindergarten at the beginning of August at age 4 and essentially be 4 years old for almost an entire quarter of the school year. Developmentally, students who enter at 4 are potentially in a class with students who could be a whole year older than them. So therefore, the solution was to please change the start date to August 1st. Did some data collecting, and at least 47 states, including Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, articulate the specific age in which their students must be in order to enter school. And as you can see, the majority of all of the the states have students starting well before September 30th. You can see Nevada's down in the bottom 4 out of the 50 states. 35 out of 50 states expect students to be 5 before September 1st, and only 2 of the 50 states have an age requirement for entering kindergarten later than Nevada. And as you know, Nevada is currently ranked 48 out of 50 states. We then pulled some data from my school. So Somerset Sky Canyon has been in existence for 3 years. So there's 3 years worth of data here. And that's how many children I have had that have started at age 4. As you can see from this data, it also identifies the academic qualifications for these students. And these designations potentially could have been avoided had the student had another year of maturity and preparation for entering kindergarten. So to summarize that, 13 of the 29 students that started at my school over the last 3 years at age 4, so that's 44% of them, qualified for either Read by Grade 3 or Reading RTI, which is Response to Intervention. So currently, we are having to provide additional assistance to these students in academic areas. In addition, our literacy specialist, or RBG3 specialist, supports these students. And in addition, this position will be eliminated by the state for 2022 school year, 21-22 school year. However, we're still expected to support these learners. And while we do support learners all the time, we just feel that the majority of these 4-year-olds need that additional gift of time to mature in order to be prepared for kindergarten. At Somerset Sky Canyon, we're in an affluent neighborhood, and that has approximately 12% FRL rates. Now, even knowing this, knowing the links between socioeconomic status and student achievement, the percentage of students of 4-year-olds in an average Nevada neighborhood school would probably be higher than the 44%. There's a report by the Legislative Analyst's Office that states the following, that data suggests children who are older tend to perform better on standardized tests. And taken together, this body of research suggests that changing the kindergarten entry age would be generally positive with no overall negative effect on children's academic achievement. Since the start date of the school year was adjusted, we believe that so should the age in which a child must be to enter kindergarten. Again, I am extremely passionate about this. We want to continue supporting students, set them up for success, and I really appreciate Senator Hammond taking the time to listen to me, and thank you all for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, we're open for any questions you have of us right now, and I'll save any concluding remarks until after that, if you don't mind.
Sure. All right. Questions from the committee? Vice Chair Dondorla.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I've actually lived this, and while I don't profess myself to be an expert in any subject, I would say I have quite a bit of experience, as I taught 30 years, and all of them in elementary, and 10 of those were kindergarten years. And most of those were years when we had 2 sets of kindergartners in a day. So I've taught quite a few kindergartners, as well as I have 3 children of my own. And I've lived this with my own kids. So I have one daughter who was a June birthday and maybe could have waited another year to go, but she was a June birthday. I have another daughter that was a late August birthday who definitely could go, but I held her out. She was tiny. 2 of her friends weren't going to school that year because they missed the cutoff, so I held her out. But I've also taught copious amounts of kids who were 4 and extremely successful and ready for school, kids that were 5 that weren't. So I really understand this issue and see both sides of this policy. My concern is that there are schools that start mid-July, and who knows when we're going to do that. We could also push back school to starting the end of August again. And I would even say, excuse me? I'm sorry, I thought I heard somebody asking a question. Also, in the charter system, it's my understanding that you all have, because I've also lived this, different starting times, there might be different times that schools start. But with all that being said, there's nothing that says, we all know kids benefit from being older. We all know that. But what I always told my parents was, you have to make that decision for your child. You have to decide for your child. I held one of mine out for a whole year. Bad part was she was driving as a sophomore. I don't know. So I guess my question is, how do you stop this? And why can't this be a parent choice? And even as a charter, why can't you say that you'd like this to be a parent choice? Because you have the availability to do that. We don't in a public school, but the charters and the privates do have that availability. So I guess with that and the fact that kindergarten is not mandatory, I guess I'd like just some discussion more on that. Thank you. And thank you for what you do, Principal Lackey.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think that I would like to, I'll have you answer, Ms. Lackey. I think what you've experienced probably brings more to the table right now.
Certainly. Thank you very much. Yes, I agree with you.
Make sure you identify yourself every time you speak so that the record is clear.
Pardon me. My name is Kate Lackey, for the record, principal at Somerset Sky Canyon. Yes, I agree with you. We are a school of choice. However, we do have to follow the SBCSA and the state mandates. So we fall under the same guidelines as a public Clark County school district would for students entering kindergarten. So we are affected by this. We cannot make up our own start date, if you will. In regards to our start date for school, we tend to align ourselves to the same calendar as the public schools, predominantly here in Clark County. Ours is slightly different, primarily just based on when we choose to do professional development days and such. But as far as our start date, it always aligns generally with the Clark County system. And like I said, we just want it to be a little more equitable. We bumped up the start date a few weeks. That then widened the gap, if you will, of when students were able to start. So we just ask for that to be narrowed and a little more in line with the rest of the 50 states.
So with that being said, we all know that there's more than just us in Las Vegas or Clark County. So we have to be cognizant of the fact that we have, 17 school districts plus the charter school district. Also, with that, I would say we do have schools that in the past, and I cannot 100% verify this, but I know there was one right here in Carson City that started in July. I guess my real thought is there's always going to be a younger kid and there's always going to be an older kid. There's no magic date for stopping that because kids aren't all born in 1 month. And so for my daughter, who was at the end of August, who I held out, she was a whole year older than all those kids. It didn't make those kids less smart. In fact, some of her classmates, including her husband, who is almost a whole year younger than her, is incredibly smart and went to school. So I guess I just struggle with changing this because I can see where we can just keep changing, right? It used to be December 30th, then it was October 1st, then it was, September 30th, then it was August 30th. And then, we just keep changing it. When do we stop? Because there's always somebody younger and there's always somebody older.
This is Scott Hammond for the record, Senator Hammond for the record. I'll say that I think Clark County is actually one of the last counties to actually move their dates up. Washoe County, I believe, was doing it a lot sooner than we were doing it. So their start date, other than this COVID year, is actually around the same time. And, as Principal Lackey had pointed out in the charter schools, in the charter world, and I suspect the same thing with some of the private schools, they try to align their schedules with the rest of the public schools because it's a little easier, because sometimes as parents, they have some of their students in charter and they also have them in public school, and they might even have them in private school. It's, they're trying to find the best fit for their child. As far as moving the dates, we could make any date, if we wanted to. But again, what we keep trying to point out is by making it universal on August 1st or somewhere on that first week of August, we're in line with a lot of other states. And when we're making comparisons, and as we often do in education, test scores, achievement, reading, and all the other things, you're now making more of an apple-to-apple comparison because you have more of the students who are the same age, and you're making that comparison. I think that's wonderful for the state of Nevada. Certainly, one of the other points that I think that the Principal Lackey had made is that you have children who are actually more capable of reading at an earlier age because they've waited a little bit more time to get into school. That helps with your resources and allocation of your resources, especially when we just don't have the resources to put into the reading specialists as we would like to have. And so that also helps out with that part. And then what we've seen over and over again in the research that we've read is the social emotional part of it. And when you have students who are starting a little bit later, you actually have the capability as a student to be more mentally focused, mentally capable, and of adjustment to certain pressures that are put on you. All that sort of thing melts away as you get older. So a lot of things happen later when you're 11 years old that kind of balances out, at least academically, it balances out. But that social emotional part is actually much better as an 11-year-old because you started a little bit later in school. There's a lot of research, especially in the Scandinavian countries, that do that. One of the things that I would also point out is that you could start at any time, but if you have a universal start date of August 1st or whatever we deemed, I mean, and I'd leave it in the capable hands of this committee to determine what would be the appropriate time. I just think that, we actually, as a state, would benefit because our kids are a little bit older. Now, if for some reason after that first year or second year, if your student is much more capable of moving on and doing more work, there's nothing that prevents from a parent who advocates for their child to go to the administration and to go to a principal and then to collaboratively figure out if that child needs to be bumped up a year or wherever is suitable for them. Nothing is going to stop them from doing that. So they're still able to do that. I think that they would just have a better idea of what to do with that student after a year and kind of figure out where they're at. And I'd leave it open to Ms. Lack if she wanted to add anything to that.
Thank you. I have a quick question. Is there a process currently if you have a child that you think needs to start earlier? Is there a process that a parent can go through to petition to start their child earlier?
Senator Hammond, for the record, Ms. Lackey, I think you'd be better to answer that if you want to just state your name and put that on the record.
Certainly, Kate Lackey, for the record. We do not have a formal process, if you will, at our particular school. I have had currently I have a current kindergarten, on the flip side, who actually is well advanced in her academic progress, and we actually have her sitting in with first grade and potentially maybe skipping a grade. So we have both sides of the coin, and it really is working with the parents and the children, obviously, to make the best decision for that child for the future. So if a parent were to come to me, I would probably have the autonomy to be able to look at the child, have them come in, maybe potentially sit in the kindergarten class and see if they were prepared to go earlier. But we don't have a formal process.
Okay. Other questions? Senator Buck.
Thank you, Chair Dennis. I was just wondering how you see this playing out, say, in high need areas where we're trying to get them into school as soon as possible, preschool maybe, but how do you see this happening in high need areas?
Senator Hammond, you're muted.
I certainly am. Thank you. This is Senator Hammond for the record. I'd like to turn that over to Ms. Lackey again, because I know that she has spoken several times with colleagues, several of those colleagues who do actually teach in Title I schools. I'd like to get her insight on this.
Certainly, Kate Lackey, for the record. I absolutely agree. There are high need schools that we want children to get into school and start their academic careers, and for social emotional reasons as well. And that, I think, is why they passed the bill to have pre-K as well. So we are trying to support those early learners, and they have the ability to attend that pre-K program within their area. But again, in all schools, we want to support the child so that they are socially, emotionally, developmentally ready for school as well.
Okay. And Chair, I think Senator Lang also has a question. I can see her hand is up.
Yeah, I was gonna ask her. I thought I saw your hand up. Senator Lang, do you have a question?
Thank you. So I've kind of been in both situations as a parent. I had our grandson that was with us. It started early, and we had a son who was academically excelled, and he skipped a grade. But for purposes of our discussion today, I want to talk about the child that started early. And I think that when you look at kindergarten, there are more things involved in how that child might perform academically. I think that as a parent, we look at the size of the child, how mature they are, and there are other factors that go into it, other And so for our grandson, today he is 10 years old and he is 5'8". So you can imagine what he was like in kindergarten. He's always been at least a head taller than the kids. Had we held him back a year and started under this scenario, he would probably be a head and a half or 2 heads taller than all the kids in the class, which for us as parents, created a social situation that was not advantageous, we didn't feel. Today, he's in 5th grade and getting 95% or above in every subject. So I think that what I'd like, I like the premise of this bill, and I get what you all are trying to do, but I think there has to be some leeway because one model isn't going to fit every child. There has to be some leeway if there are kids that are ready to go, that we can send them. Additionally, I think that parents, they plan for when their child's going to start school. And as you know, a lot of parents have their children in daycare. And I think I was glad that you extended the date, because I think parents need to plan. Because it costs another year of daycare, which is around $6,000. I think that it could be a hardship to a lot of parents because we don't have affordable and adequate daycare available to parents. So, and I also think, to Senator Buck's point, dealing with the children that come from the lower income neighborhoods and communities, it's a lot of those kids their parents can't afford to send them to daycare. So getting them in school where they get some instruction and can start moving ahead, I think is a really good thing. So I'm not sure I have a question in there as much as some comments and some things to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Senator Hammer for the record. I appreciate your comments and your concerns, Senator Lang, and certainly would like to talk to you again if offline to try and shore up some of those. I did have a call from a parent who did talk a little bit about that scenario. Like, if I know my child really well, why can't I get them into school? I think there's got to be another mechanism. This, of course, this bill doesn't really address that, because all it does is move the date back. But if there is a bill that's necessary, language that needs to be put in somewhere to address the procedure for getting a child into kindergarten earlier than that 5, because every child's different, and I recognize that. I certainly would entertain that as well. And as far as your comments about getting some students in because parents are struggling either at home or in daycare, I completely understand that. I did have a very long discussion with Clark County School District about how many teachers and positions that would affect, how many it would affect them, which is why I moved the date back, not only for the parents to kind of ramp up, but also for the school districts to ramp up, move personnel around as needed, knowing that in the next year, all those students who would be held back for 1 year would then, come back, plus the additional students. And so that's why we were doing that, to kind of get, allow them to do, kind of get all that ramped up and ready to go, move personnel around, then move them back the next year when it happens. But, so far, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'd love to talk to you some more about that. And if there's anything we can put in there to help assuage you of any, misgivings in supporting the bill, I'd certainly do that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to ask questions? Senator Buck.
Thank you, Chair Dennis, for one more question. I just wanted to throw this out. What if there was more autonomy for school district charter schools, for principals to actually assess the child, see if they're ready? Because I do believe that we need kids in as soon as possible, especially in those high-risk areas. If they're ready. And I know the struggle when it comes to behavior, because you end up being down there in kindergarten quite a bit as a building administrator. But I just wondered if a committee would consider maybe some autonomy in that, or is that going to be too vague? So just throwing that out there. Thank you, Chair Dennis.
Thank you. Vice Chair Dondarlu.
Yes, and this is just kind of a point of history here. I've lived through the days of when we tested 4-year-olds because their parents believed they were smart enough and ready. And so we had 4-year-olds that went to school because parents thought they were ready and didn't want to wait till they were 5 because the cutoff date at that time was October 30th or November 1st, I forget. So we had kids in October whose parents wanted them in school. So I want to do what's best for the kids, but I'm just trying to put some insight into this, that there's always going to be a younger kid and there's always going to be an older kid, and there's always going to be a parent who thinks their child is smarter than all the others, and there's always going to be a parent that needs help. I could go on forever. So I just am concerned about continually moving dates to fit things when we continually move dates to fit other things. So I'm just not so sure that that it's what's best. That's all, and it has nothing to do with, as I told you. I mean, I've done it, lived it with my kids, and I've lived it with teaching kids. So and I've also lived it on that testing side. So just a point of clarification as the history goes by. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't know if that was a question. It sounded like more of a statement. This is Senator Hammond for the record, but and I agree. There's always going to be the youngest, the oldest. That doesn't change with this. What it does recognize the fact that if you do start a little bit older, it was somebody who found out about the bill and decided to send me as much research as possible. And so I read over that research over the last couple of weeks to kind of get a better idea. And the studies that continually show that if you start a little bit later, then you have fewer disruptions in class. The students are a little older, but it's also that the social emotional behavior that changes. Too many times that we think that it's attention deficit disorder, when in fact it just might be the fact that they weren't old enough when they came in, and if they stay home a little bit longer and get what they call play time in, that play that teaches them how to behave in groups, then that actually helps them out as they age throughout the early periods of their education. I was kind of surprised by that, by the findings that we saw in the research. But so we're not really saying that we're not still going to have an older and a younger. That's definitely true. It's just that we want to have a set time where, I'd like to say everybody who's in kindergarten at least 5 years of age. And that helps with reading, which was most important. Reading, as we have discovered, if you can read by the 3rd grade, then your life is a lot better. Your income is a lot better as you age, as you get older. And so there's a lot of things that, again, this benefits those areas. That's the reason why we just chose August 1st. But again, if we wanted to make it August 7th, most of the schools are starting right around that time. I'd be okay with that as well. We just picked the date and said August 1st. But your point is well taken, and we'll definitely consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody else raising their hands. Why don't let's go to get my notes.
Senator Dennis?
Yes.
Hi, sorry, I have my hand raised. I don't know if you could see it. Senator Layton.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to put on the record, because when we start talking about testing, and I know it wasn't proposed, but the research has shown that kids that are tested that young, it's not really reliable. And so I am not a supporter of having kids tested to get into kindergarten.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? All right. Let's go then to hear testimony in support, opposition, and neutral on Bill 102. And just a reminder that asking to 2 minutes to give your testimony in 2 minutes and state and spell your name for the record. So first, we're going to hear testimony in support of the bill. BPS, please add the first caller.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on SB 102, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in support on SB 102, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits 859, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. This is Janine Hansen, State President of Nevada Families for Freedom. We support SB 102, the entrance date for children entering school from September 30th to August 1st. This bill will ensure that children are at least 5 years old when they start school. Researchers Kathy Bedard and Elizabeth Dewey found that grade schoolers who are amongst the youngest in their class who are amongst the oldest in their class have a distinct competitive learning advantage over the youngest kids in their grade, scoring 4 to 12% higher on standardized math and science tests. In their landmark book, School Can Wait, Raymond and Dorothy Moore established the fact that children are expected to learn much sooner than their cognitive skills will allow. The book covers some 6,000 studies showing definitively that children are far more successful in school when they start a little later rather than earlier age. This is especially true for boys who are about a year behind girls developmentally. And this means more boys end up as behavior problems with learning disabilities and failing in school. According to a new study from the National Bureau of Economic Research, children who start school at an older age do better than their younger classmates and have better odds of attending college and graduating from an elite institution. In my own personal experience, I went to school a year late, and I always found it to be an advantage. When I put my son in the first grade, he ended up running away from school, breaking out in dollar-size hives, and after considerable effort, I pulled him out of school and waited a year. The next year, he was fine. He was at the academic top of his class. We had no behavior problems. And just waiting a year solved his problems. We encourage you to support this bill, which will help more of our children succeed in school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Can we go to the next caller?
Caller with the last 3 digits 577, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. Chris Daly, D-A-L-Y, Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 120 years. NSA supports SB 102, moving the minimum age for kindergarten from 5 on September 30th to 5 on August 1st of the school year. 37 of 42 other states that have set minimum ages for kindergarten require kindergartners to be older than Nevada's requirement. 7 other states leave the decision to their districts. This is reflective of research showing a positive relationship between school starting age and children's cognitive development. It also recognizes additional expectations on the kindergarten year, including the development of fundamentals for learning to read and write. As Nevada considers moving up the required age for kindergarten, we should also refocus on the importance of the pre-K years to ensure there are meaningful pre-K opportunities for all Nevada children. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we go to the next caller?
Caller with the last 3 digits 105, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Committee. My name is Lynn Chapman. I'm the State Vice President of Nevada Eagle Forum, LYNNCHAPMAN. I'm in favor of this bill. It's a great bill. We want our children to be successful throughout their school career. So I think it's a good idea to get them started off on the right foot. A child is a little more mature and is more apt to be able to handle all types of situations that may come up in a school setting if they're just a little bit older. I worked with children through my church in the Awana program, which is like a scouting program, and I worked with 3, 4, and pre-kindergarten 5-year-olds. The difference between the 3 and 4-year-olds was pretty evident. The difference between a 4 and pre-kindergarten 5-year-old was evident as well. It was a lot of fun, but a real challenge sometimes. And we should let our children be children, but just having them mature a little bit before putting them into a school setting might be helpful for them as much as the parents wanting them to be in school. But I think the children's maturity is really very important. So please support SB 102. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we go to the next caller?
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Okay. So we will next hear testimony in opposition to Senate Bill 102.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on SB 102, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in opposition on SB 102, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Okay. All right. So let's go to anyone wishing to testify who's neutral on the bill. We can have them.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on SB 102, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in neutral on SB 102, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits 217, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Ed Gonzalez, Gonzalez. I'm the community member from Hickey Elementary School in Sunrise Manor. I was actually trying to speak in support. I just couldn't get on, so I apologize speaking in neutral on this, but I am supportive of the bill. I've had some of our kindergarten teachers ask me to share with committee why they think this is a good bill. They feel like younger students, especially in academics, may struggle with fine motor skills, social stamina, and the school day, as long as in addition to reading and mathematics that they enter at 4th grade. They also feel like the students who are most successful in their classes are in 5th grade and older compared to 4th grade. And I think there is one thing as well that I heard when we talk about testing in 4th graders, we currently do that with the Bergens test at the beginning of the year. And so at least the elementary school teachers and the kindergartens in particular are very supportive of this bill. And so I thank the chairman for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Okay, let's go to the next caller.
Chair, it looks like there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Okay. So do we have any other callers that are in the queue?
Yes, Chair, there is one caller, but when I went through support, opposition, and neutral, they remained there, so they may just be listening.
Right.
If you want me to go through it one more time, I can.
No, I think we're good. Let's. All right. So since we have no further ones, let's come back to Senator Hammond. Just want to make sure committee members that we didn't miss that. I tried to catch everybody in your questions before. If I missed you, let me know. But otherwise, I'm going to have Senator Hammond finish up.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just say in conclusion that SB 102 ultimately ensures our kids have a smoother transition to begin their compulsory educational years. I know as well as anyone here how important it is that kids are at a specific developmental level prior to attending kindergarten. Again, I just urge your support of this bill to ensure our kids start their schooling with the necessary social and behavioral knowledge to support a successful educational future. And I thank you, Mr. Chair, and all the members of the committee. And, thank you so much for the time that you gave us today.
All right. Thank you very much. And so we will go ahead and close the hearing on Senate Bill 102. And we will now open the hearing on Senate Bill 202, which is relating to education requiring Board of Trustees of a school district or governing body of a charter school to provide credit for foreign or world language to pupils who complete certain courses of study and providing other matters properly relating thereto. I believe we have Senator Kekeffer to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for having me back to the Senate Committee on Education. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for the record, Senator Ben Kekeffer to present Senate Bill 202. I do not have a star witness as in my constituent like I did last week when I was presenting a bill. All you get is me today, Mr. Chairman, but hopefully we'll be able to spark a good discussion about how to solve a couple of significant issues that face students today as well as our workforce, which is a lack of ability to do computer coding for the workforce. Computing jobs are actually the #1 source of new wages in the United States, and there are currently 400,000 job openings in the field, and they are expected to grow at twice that rate of other jobs, according to code.org. In fact, the Department of Labor estimates another whopping 546,200 coding jobs will be added to the U.S. workforce by 2028. Now, we have focused a lot on STEM education in this state, as deservedly so, and 67% of all new jobs in STEM are in computing, which is a huge portion of that, but unfortunately only 11% of STEM graduates are in computer science. Now, research shows that taking an AP computer science class in high school is a clear predictor of pursuing computing in college. In fact, women who try AP Computer Science in high school are 10 times more likely to major in it, and Black and Latinx students are 7 times more likely to major in it in higher education. However, we are not doing a real good job nationally of incorporating women generally, but particularly women of color in computer sciences. Women of color make 10% of all bachelor's degrees in computing. And women generally earn only 21% of all doctorates in computing. And of that, less than 5% are awarded to Black, Latinx, or Native. So there is a huge gap in the education in computing, and that's translating directly to the workforce, as we have seen in the tech industry. In Silicon Valley, less than 1% of leadership positions are held by Latinx women, and less than 0.5% of those positions are held by Black women. Now, the state of Nevada, we, the legislature, have made significant changes to encourage more computer science class in our schools, including a requirement that students, before they reach 6th grade, have exposure to some computer science education. We approved that in Senate Bill 200 of 2017, which I think we all supported. It also requires that a computer science class be offered at every high school. The bill, the bill was, I think, a significant step forward. But the computer science classes that are being offered are also not specific to coding. Coding is a specific skill within the computer science realm that we need to focus on to ensure that students in Nevada are adequately prepared to capture these jobs that are so prominent in our economy. So what this bill attempts to do is encourage more students to take actual coding classes as a piece of their curriculum, as opposed to just general computer science courses. And the attempt to do this is by allowing coding to be counted towards a student's foreign language requirement for their high school graduation. The bill is prescriptive and says that they shall be counted against that foreign language requirement. that is something that may be a little too prescriptive, and we should make it more permissive, since we also allow computer science courses to count towards math and science requirements for graduation. But adding foreign language to that list would, I believe, offer students the ability to sort of choose their course of study when they're in their upper grades in high school, and allow them to make some of their own decisions about the pathway that they want to take. I'll say this before I close, Mr. Chairman, that I am certainly a strong supporter of liberal arts education. I think there is inherent value in teaching people to think critically, and everything that comes along with that. And I recognize that the education in world languages is a component of that. And I wouldn't want to undermine the value that that provides to students for people who have dedicated their careers to this. I think it's incredibly valuable. But I think there's also an opportunity now to look towards the future in terms of what our academic structure is preparing our students for, both in the workplace and in higher education, and perhaps provide more incentives for students to learn a critical skill that will prepare them both for college and the workplace. So that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman. Happy to answer any questions you may have. I have no one else with me to present, so we're going to be quick today.
All right, thank you. I wanted to ask you, we made some significant changes to the computer curriculum, including adding coding and some other things. This last session, Senator Woodhouse and others, including myself, made those changes, and they're just starting to be implemented. How does this fit into all of that new stuff that's going to be happening?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Ben Kiekefer for the record. I agree. I think we've done really good work in trying to expand computer science education generally, as well as coding for our students. What I think this does is that it allows more flexibility for students as they sort of structure their high school academic pathway, right? As a student is working with their counselor to decide, okay, I want to get an advanced diploma, and I know I need X number of credits in world language. Could I count 1 year or 1 semester of coding against that? So I think it offers more flexibility to students as they plan their pathway through high school and whatever lies ahead.
Okay, I understand. Other questions? Yes, Vice Chair Dondero-Luke, and I think I saw Senator Hammond also, and maybe Senator Knight.
Did you want to go to Senator Hammond first? That's fine.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I have a couple questions. Senator Kiekefer, number one, why did you choose world languages? Because many colleges require languages. It's not necessarily, we require it too, but they require it to get into college. So now if we have kids who are coding and they think they want to go to college, they're not going to be able to get in because the colleges are going to say, well, where's your Spanish, French, or German, or whatever you took?
So, Ben Kiekefer for the record. I will say that I've checked with Chancellor Rose, and Nevada's colleges and universities do not require specific foreign language requirements for admission. So, right. So that would, but I understand that other institutions do. So I think probably the best answer to your question, Vice Chair Dondero-Luke, is that this would be a process, I think, whereby a student works with their counselors to plan their pathway and ensure that they're achieving the course requirements that are necessary for whatever their goals may be, so that if they decide, okay, I want to get a standard diploma from high school that requires 2 years of foreign language, but I also want to apply to I want to keep my options open to apply to out-of-state schools, that maybe they should take 2 years of Spanish or Latin or German. But for a student that wants to get an advanced diploma and that requires that 3rd year of foreign language, they could take coding to meet that requirement. So I think it's about providing pathways for students and allowing them to work with their counselors to ensure that that they're getting the requirements that they need to meet their goals. I understand this, the transition from high school to college or university is an issue that we need to be cognizant of. Absolutely.
So with that being said, I know there's only a couple states that allow that. So why did you choose foreign language?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Ben Kekeffer for the record. I think, we already allow it to be applicable towards science and math. So if a student is particularly interested in that subject matter, it would allow them to, really develop a robust course offering in their upper grades of high school around science and math, and then be able to add a coding class to that that would meet another part of their graduation requirements while still being able to focus on their STEM education if they chose that. And foreign language, to me, coding is a language, right? It's often been discussed that way. Perhaps it's more of a universal language than a foreign language. It's a way to communicate, and I think that it fit into that criteria.
And the only reason I asked that question is because I'm concerned that we're going to have kids who don't know where they want to go to school, or maybe where they might get a scholarship, or maybe whatever, comes their way. A parent moves and they're not in Nevada anymore, so they're not going to UNR or UNLV. And now they're in Colorado, and all those colleges require, foreign language, and now they don't have one. I'm just thinking more broadly with it. And the other thing is I thought we could already do this by the virtue of electives. So they would just have to make some choices, which are always hard choices with kids, especially if they're involved in a sport, right? Or a band or something like that, because they have to start choosing between, band and something else. So are we done?
No.
I've got a screen.
Did you get the alert?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought maybe I was done. I thought maybe I couldn't talk to you anymore. So, Senator Kekeffer, I can't move this off my screen. So I now see the top of your head. So
this is Chair. This is Senator Dennis. That was a message that we just got from our IT department, and you just have to click on the acknowledge alert, and it'll go away.
Oh, I know, but I haven't read it. Well, we get to read it later, I guess. Okay, there we go. Goodbye.
I don't think we all got that message either. So I was wondering if some of us are going to be saved and some of us are not.
That's a true story, Senator Hammond. True story.
Yeah.
All right, Senator Hammond, I'll let you go. Senator Kekeffer, I'll let you go. I totally appreciate what you're doing here. I'm a little concerned about some of the logistics, but we can talk about that offline. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Madam Vice Chair. And if I may just say one thing in response, I agree with you, and look, I think that something like this probably relies on really good counseling at the high school level, right? And and we're having guidance counselors work with their students to make sure that all their options are kept as wide open as possible, and that they understand what they're doing. So I share your concerns.
So that would be Senate Bill 151. Happens to be sponsored by Senator Don Darrell Loop. Thank you very much. And Senator Hammond, I hope we're all saved.
All right, thank you, Senator. Let's see, Hammond, and then Senator Lang. Do you also have your hand up? Okay, I'll come to you right after Senator Hammond.
Well, actually, thank you, Chair. I think my questions, actually, I'm on the same wavelength as Senator Don Darrell Loop, and I think the Vice Chair and I are kind of on the same path here, and that is, there are going to be, there's probably fewer colleges now that require that 2-year language that there were more many years ago. But there are going to be some who'd still require it. And so I don't want to see those juniors or seniors all of a sudden, filling out that application and realizing that they didn't get those 2 years in or whatever they need for that particular college. However, that my question, I guess, would have been, I think you kind of got to it, Senator Kekeffer, and that is, if you check some of the universities, have you checked around to see How many are actually allowing other things like, I mean, is there anything else like accepting coding as a foreign language? Is there anything else like that is accepted already? I mean, I know American Sign Language is a language, recognized language, obviously, but is there anything else like that? And coding it's a language. I know that a lot of people come over from other countries, can't speak English, but they know science and they can code, and people communicate easily because of that. They code back, and they're sitting there at work or at school coding, and they can talk to each other that way. So I get that. I mean, that does work in the world that I've been in. But have you kind of looked at that to see if some universities, are they accepting that?
I'll have to get back to, I'm sorry, Ben Kekeffer for the record, Mr. Chairman, through you to Senator Hammond. I'll have to get you a sort of more comprehensive answer for that. But I think the American Sign Language example is a good one. But I'll have to reply with a more robust answer.
Yeah, like I said, I think Senator Dunn-Loop and I are on the same path. It's just, we just wanted to know a little bit more about those students who get out of the system, and I don't want to see them get stuck their senior year and not knowing where they're going to go. Like you said, it takes robust counseling.
Which we know on the counseling that we have not very many counselors to a lot of students. Okay, Senator Lang. You're muted.
Okay, am I muted now?
Nope, you're good.
Thanks, Chair Dennis. So I said the senator's name correctly. Now I have to do it again. Senator Kekeffer, right? So I am just, could you know if all the schools have coding in their course offerings?
I appreciate that. Ben Kekeffer for the record, through Mr. Chairman, Senator Lang. So Senate Bill 200 from the 2017 legislative session required all high schools to provide a course on computer science, but I don't believe that robust sort of coding instruction is necessarily a component of that. AP Computer Science A, according to the College Boards, is pretty much dedicated to coding. If you look at a description, a course overview of AP Computer Science A, College Boards, it describes it as, quote, an introductory college level computer science course. Students cultivate their understanding of coding through analyzing, writing, and testing code as they explore concepts like modularity, variables, and control structures. Quote. So that's the type of sort of more robust coding instruction that I think is important. So we do have a requirement to have a computer science course for graduation. I will say that I have two freshmen who are in high school in Washoe County, and they met that requirement through a junior high course that they took, which was, really didn't have much coding at all associated with it. So, there are different levels of requirements based on the type of course and the requirements that we have for students to take some sort of computer science for graduation, but it's not explicit to coding.
I guess I would like to see it offered at every school. If this is something that we're going to move forward, I don't know how we make that happen, but I think that would be important as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ben Kekeffer, for the record. I think that, opportunities for more courses through dual enrollment, which we discussed last time I appeared before you, I think are certainly a way that we could capture more availability. And I know that we do not restrict some of our computer science courses to the physical classroom, and that they've always been considered options for distance learning, even before COVID.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I should mention that all that stuff that we've worked on over the last few sessions on computer classes in middle school, actually, even we were looking at elementary school, what would be required. The stuff in high school is not intended to be a keyboarding class or, this is what a computer is and a monitor. These are advanced a true computer science class, which would include coding. And all schools are supposed to be doing those. I think all of that stuff is just kicking in. So there is computer science work that is going to be going on. I think most of it is still fairly new and as they try to get enough qualified teachers to teach classes. Okay, other discussions. Okay. I'm not seeing anybody. If I am, just speak right up. We're going to go to those that are in support, opposition, and neutral. And reminder, 2 minutes. And so first we're going to hear testimony in support of Senate Bill 202. So BPS, please add the first caller.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on SB 202, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in support on SB 202, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits 498, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Erica Bolgaz, ERICAVALDRIZ with the Vegas Chamber. The Chamber is in support of SB 202. We believe the coding language will help our students gain a better understanding of technology and how it's shaping our world. And it will have the ability to work with technology around them. Also, this bill emphasizes the importance of investing in STEM initiatives. The adoption of allowing computer coding as a credible foreign language in our schools is imperative for our Nevada students to excel in the future and the future workforce. With the current shortage of computer science professionals, engineering professionals, product developers, software professionals, and system integrators, we believe the influx of coding in classrooms preps students for real-life situations and sets them up for a strong transition to the workforce. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee, for your time. We urge your support for this bill.
Thank you. We can go to the next caller.
Once again, if you would like to testify in support on SB 202, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. All right, let us go to testimony in opposition to Senate Bill 202.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on SB 202, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in opposition on SB 202, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
All right. Let us go to testimony. Anyone wishing to testify who is neutral on the bill?
To testify in neutral on SB 202, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. To testify in neutral on SB 202, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hopefully we didn't miss anybody. I know we had last time we had somebody that was in the queue that didn't quite get in time for the support. Do we have any? How many do we have in the queue currently?
Currently, we have no one in the queue, just 2 people that are listening that were in support for SB 102.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. So with that, going to come back to Senator Kika and did I miss anything with any of the committee members? I want to make sure I didn't cut you off when we were earlier when we switched to the testimony. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody raising their hand. Okay, Senator Kieckhofer, do you want to go ahead and finish up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Ben Kieckhofer for the record. I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, as well as the committee. I know that you are all committed to ensuring we pass public policy that is in the best interest of our students, and the concerns that we've heard today all circle around that and ensuring that we're preparing our students accurately and not setting up false expectations for them. So I am 100% in support of that, and maybe we can find some ways to thread this needle. So I appreciate your time. I told you I'd keep it short and simple, and I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. So with that, we'll go ahead and close the hearing on SB 202. Let me go back to our agenda. We are now on our last item, which is public comment. Anyone wishing to give public comment, this is the point where we'll do that. So BPS, if you will, let's see, if you will go ahead and let those add the first caller in. And just as a reminder, limited to 2 minutes. And remember to state and spell your name for the record and indicate your affiliation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. To participate in public comment, if you'd like to participate in public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, if you would like to participate in public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Committee, we have no further items to come before us at this time. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday. With no further business before us, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, and thank you to staff.